Welcome back, and today we are playing out the Hawk, and I honestly thought that this thing was gonna be pretty fun. It's a trainer jet with missiles, and I was expecting it to at least be good at dogfighting, but unfortunately it's a training jet in terms of being a bicycle with training wheels that doesn't allow you to tip the bike over at all, and thus making you actually less maneuverable. It's very restricting, and while it does roll decently well and does actually pull quite well at high speed, this isn't really sustainable because the quote-unquote engine is essentially a hairdryer, and while you might be able to kill people like this hunter over here, overall it is a borderline 8.3, maybe 8.7 jet with some missiles strapped to it, and unlike the Alpha jet, this thing doesn't have funny quirks to it. And what I said in the chat right here is exactly how I feel about it. I could not summarize it any better than I did right there. This plane does not have many redeeming qualities, and especially at 10.7 you are looking at essentially a worse AMX. Now the DEFAs are very inconsistent, the AIM-9Ls are pretty easily flared, but at least you have 4 of them, and this means that we can go straight to orbit, because for some reason it also doesn't have a contrail, and just orbital strike everyone at the same time. We get multiple kills with the missiles, we come in a head-on, we miss the F8, and then we just keep on flying straight, because that's basically the only thing this plane can do, and try to miss for the J-35XS in the hope that it doesn't have any flares left. He does, and he flares it, and the missile instead goes for an A4B, absolute poor NPC that just got domed out of nowhere, and we turn around. And we are still behind the J-35, but the MiG-21 comes head on with us, so I'm just gonna full send it, manage to take his wing off, and we go back for the J-35. I'm still going about 800, he's going super slow, so I might merge with him here, but I'm not gonna go into the 1 circle or 2 circle or whatever, because I will lose it. Instead, I'm gonna go straight vertical, because he has nowhere near the energy to complete this kind of maneuver. I just open up the gap, we go straight up, and if I do this 1 or 2 more times, he will eventually kill me. But I have enough separation here to just pull straight up, drop the landing flaps, and pull straight into the shot. Make sure the pre-flare, it only has the AIM-9J equivalent, they're pretty hungry. Just make sure that you have the flares in the air in case the missile decides to go through it anyway. Go ahead on with the A-10, miss my shots. He also does so, fortunately for us, because I do not want to fuck with a GAU-8 Avenger, and we just kind of look behind him and get ourselves an easy kill. And just like that, we essentially managed to get 6, 7 if you count the A4B kills in the span of 1.5 minutes. Now we just need to clean up the A10. We managed to miss our shots, and then we managed to miss our shots. Then we miss our shots a little bit more, and then we finally get some guns on. We crit him, and we just make sure that... But funny plane man, they didn't just add 1 Hawk, they added 2. And unfortunately the Hawk 2000 RDA isn't going to be much better, because while you might get sky flashes, the airframe is exactly the same. We have the same engine, the MK71, and basically the same airframe. Now you do get a radar to help with the sky flashes, but the sky flashes, they're not the best, especially on a frame that's as slow as this one. Keep also in mind that you have to lose the guns. It is pretty bleak. I wouldn't recommend this upon anyone. Now luckily the ground ordnance is pretty decent. If you do want to play it in ground RB, it's honestly pretty solid. But keep in mind that the ordnance is exactly the same, other than of course the sky flashes. And do you want to take a 10.7 to 11.3 bump hit for that? Personally, no, but I also don't play high tier tanks very often, so that's for you to fill in if you want to do it. Also, yes, it does have some skins. We have the anniversary camouflage, which I think is absolutely abhorrent. Kind of reminds me of a Lancaster, which of course can out dogfight Tomcat, so that's kind of a perk. And then we have the 200 skin, which I think is a bit better. I'm a big fan of the light grayish camos, but we also have the bicolor desert one, which I also don't like, but that's again kind of subjective. We have the Hawk 200, and I absolutely refuse to play it out. Now it also has the targeting computers for the ground striking, and this essentially is the only thing that you can do. The main issue with planes like this is that by the time you reach the middle of the map, the game has been decided, and this is a plane that struggles in a 1v1 or struggles to get kills in the first place. And having a plane that struggles to get kills, that struggles to fight essentially anything, arrive when it's either 1v6 or 6v1 means that very often you're going to get absolutely nothing done. If you want to grind this thing in Araby, instead of going to orbit and orbital striking people with your AIM-9Ls, which is in my opinion the only viable playstyle if you want to kill other players in this thing, you need to get the amount of missiles to actually do that. And in order to get those missiles, you probably just want to go and ground pound a little bit, because you thought this thing was bad when it's like this. Now imagine this without the 4 AIM-9Ls. And yeah, it also gets a little bit of a hit when it comes to the flight performance, but it's so abhorrent anyway, it doesn't really impact you whatsoever. Because you go from getting one turn by essentially everyone in the lobby to getting one turn by more than essentially everyone in the lobby. There's a few planes that you can hang with, like the A-10 and the Su-25, but even the Su-25 prolonged is gonna give you a run for your money. It's gonna be a very annoying fight to play, and I would actually almost put my money on the fact that the Su-25 wins in the long run, especially if it says R-73s or something like that. It is a plane that I find more enjoyable to play. Everyone just runs away from you because they can, and if they do decide to fight you full on like this J7D over here, I might get a singular shot because he merges improperly and gives me a window. I get a singular shot, and if I miss that shot, which I very often have, I can even give the computer to my grandma and she will absolutely dumpster me. My grandma has been dead for 2 years. She's completely decomposed, there's nothing left except for bones, and even then she will completely spank my ass. You do not want a dogfight in this thing whatsoever, and there's really nothing redeeming about it. Now, I mentioned the Alpha Jet a little bit earlier. I thought that the Alpha Jet was honestly, while definitely mediocre and completely limited by a lot of things, at least it has one high-speed funny pool, it has extremely good roll rate, and it's an absolute pain in the ass to hit. This is kind of the opposite. The roll is kind of okay, it has an okay high-speed pool, but that's about it. The only thing it has over the Alpha Jet is a little bit of top speed maybe, because you go 1048 instead of 1019, so now you can be outrun by 500 kilometers an hour instead of 540, except if you take into account that the stat card is correct, because it isn't. The Hawk only goes 1020 on the deck and the Alpha Jet actually goes 1090 on the deck, so the Alpha Jet actually manages to eke it out by another 70 kilometers while also actually having better acceleration at high speed, having better spool at high speed, so overall it is just a lot more playable. And you are correct, the Alpha Jet TH at 10.7 has only AIM-4Ps, and the AIM-9Ls are definitely a lot better than the AIM-9Ps, but damn does this plane blow ass. It's really, and I mean, there's really not much to say about this thing anymore. It's a ground attacker, it should be played like one. The issue is that you need to get the unlocks, which are an absolute pain in the ass. This thing has absolutely zero thought put into whoever wants to grind this thing and play it for free. Or I guess they actually put a lot of thought into it and cooked up this absolute disaster. Because damn, you get absolutely nothing when you spawn it in for the very first time. It's kind of one of those planes where they want you to spend some money to at least make it somewhat bearable. Because keep in mind, when you only have the Defas, when they're stock, the spread on those is absolutely terrible, and then also the default belts are absolutely terrible because half the shells are useless, and then you also only have 100 rounds per gun. It's an absolute disaster class when it comes to designing anything for free-to-play people, and at this point it feels like it's completely on purpose. And I know it feels this way very often, but this is one of those examples where I really cannot go around it. But enough of that, let's take a look at some actual gameplay. I just showed you some of my highlights, like where I absolutely destroyed that A-10 Thunderbolt. This is how I get most of my kills. I go to very high altitude and I drop in once the furball develops. And now I can come in from an angle where no one is looking. Make sure to shoot at people that aren't being shot at by anyone else, and then they won't accidentally flare your missiles at the same time. This netted me a decent amount of kills. It's incredibly boring and I tried to get something out of this video because everyone voted for it. I thought this was going to be a pretty decent playing to play and pretty enjoyable playing to play. I haven't touched any of the dev servers. I quite frankly just haven't had the time. We are moving into a house next week and I'm also just at work very often. So expect the frequency of videos to go up a little bit and the quality as well when it comes to the next update, or maybe in a week or two from now. I'm gonna go full-time YouTube again for a month, maybe 6 weeks, and then we go back to full-time working again. I'm just gonna have a little bit of a break here at the end of the year and make sure that I have ample time to decorate, paint and do all the stuff to the house that you do when you move into it. But in the background you can see that without the rose tinted glasses, what it is just sneaking up on people and shoving an aim9L up their ass. Is this the most enjoyable gameplay loop? Definitely not. It's very one-dimensional, and that's unfortunately what this plane is. It's the Hawk 200 reasons to play a different plane. And that's essentially all I have for you today. Stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm gonna be dropping the Fokker video, and it's honestly gonna be a bit of a shout. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.